Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to react to a channel called Angry Canadian Immigrant. I have only watched about or four of his videos, but I've gathered that he is maybe from Eastern Europe, and he has been in Canada a similar amount of time to me, somewhere around maybe 4 to 6 years. It also looks like he works in the tech industry. Going by the name of the channel, obviously, he has not been very happy with his time in Canada. So yeah, well, I'm here again on Canada Day. As you can see on my screen, I am doing some Uber, but as I've already told you guys, Uber is very slow in Halifax. So let's see if while I'm doing this video, I get any trips. Okay, and for anybody who has not watched my videos so far, the reason I post my net worth is to show in real time what happens when you just dollar cost average into stocks without trying to time the market. Most of my funds are invested in a Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. I earn around $65,000 per year working my regular job, plus around $25,000 doing Uber. So as you can see there, I work very long hours. I earn around $90,000 per year. For the last couple of years, or a little bit more, I've been saving roughly maybe around $20,000 per year. And of course, I do my investments. They had some struggle in 2022, but since then they have been growing. My goal here is to reach financial independence. The number I'm aiming for is roughly $1.5 million in about 15 years. And yeah, I hope you guys get to witness me get there. And if I fail to get there in that time, hopefully it doesn't take me much longer than that. Before we hear from the Angry Canadian Immigrant, please remember to like and subscribe. Let's hear what he has to say.
Canada keeps aggressively promoting itself as an attractive country to immigrate. But why? Does it care about people in other countries? Obviously not. It's just because it desperately needs those immigrants' money and cheap labor in order to prop up its economy. Wait, but immigrants also benefit from getting into Canada as it allows them to have freedom, high standards of living, jobs, housing, healthcare, at least for those who work hard, does it? My answer as a recent immigrant is absolutely no. After 3 years in Canada, I see it as one of the most overrated countries in the world. Very high taxes, enormous cost of life, very few well-paying jobs with insane competition for them, small salaries, no access to healthcare whatsoever, houses cost a fortune, streets are flooded by homeless people, crime is on the rise. The government does not even pretend they care, but just keep raising taxes and impose new restrictions. But massive numbers of immigrants keep coming to Canada.
All right, guys, so very tough statements there, and a lot of that, many of the challenges highlighted are true to some extent. I think, though, that many immigrants are aware that, well, nothing comes easily, and also that there are challenges, but still willing to spend the money. Some, and I'm not trying to imply that this is true for all. And I hope the people who believe this is easy are in the minority. But of course, I've not done a survey on this, so I don't know. Additionally, he is assigning moral responsibility to Canada to let immigrants know that this is not paradise. I think regular people who have expectations of morality from politicians will always be disappointed. We need to think about things in terms of what benefits who, and you will be closer to the reality when evaluating the words that come out of a politician's mouth. So I don't know if there's any big I have any big problems with Canadian politicians promoting their country. That's what politicians do. So I'm gonna hear more about his issues here, and then I'll continue to respond.
But let's move on to five most important reasons why Canada is broken and absolutely nobody should immigrate here now. Number one, you will not be able to earn enough money here to have a normal life. It's not about working hard versus being lazy, it's about how the system has been set up. I'm working as a software engineer with a salary above the average, and my wife graduated from a Canadian college and she is working as well, and yet we can afford only taxes, rent, and food. We have no chance to own a house. We are basically one step from being homeless. I see that most of my colleagues struggle financially as well. I see those highly educated people with experience in their 40s delivering food in Uber Eats in the evening because that's the only option for them to stay afloat. I see educated and experienced people taking two jobs just to pay rent.
Thing I'd like to say on this topic is that most or many immigrants are newer immigrants. They went to school for a couple of years, many of them in Canada, and many of them are 1, 2, 3 years out of school. They are working with their current companies, many of them for less than 5 years, so have not yet had the chance to really climb the corporate ladder and start making more money. So there is a disadvantage as an immigrant where you are starting over. I don't think anybody who left school in and expects to be a top earner within those 3 years, unless you are graduating from something that is super lucrative. And of course, this guy is a software developer, so his expectation is different from the average person. But here we are not only talking about him, we're talking about the general average immigrant. All right, let's hear what else he has to say.
Use them as cheap labor in order to giving back as little as possible until they are frustrated enough to leave. The second reason not to move to Canada is that you will have to wait something like half a year or even longer to see a doctor. If you develop a serious health issue, there is a real chance of dying while waiting for a doctor's appointment. And it's not an exaggeration, it's a reality. I've been living in Canada for more than 3 years, and it's impossible for me to see a doctor. We pay high taxes that are supposed to finance healthcare, but we have no.
I'm sorry, but impossible? Don't get me wrong, the healthcare system here has serious problems that I will speak about in a minute. However, this statement that it is impossible to see a doctor is false. Anybody can go stand in a line at a walk-in clinic and will be able to see a doctor the same day without an appointment. This in itself is a problem for a first world country. Having to stand in line, sometimes in the cold, for up to 2 hours to see a doctor is shameful. It is free, so there is some trade-off, but still, this is very disappointing. There are problems with people with long wait times at hospitals who need major operations. I have also heard of people dying waiting for doctors in hospitals. I have lived in Halifax, and I still, for 3 years, and I still don't have a family doctor. There is a shortage of doctors, and I find it crazy that immigration has not been used to solve this problem. So yes, Canada's healthcare system has serious problems. I just don't think we need to make false statements about it. We can speak the truth and people will still get the point. it is a problem. There are issues to be resolved here. I also have to highlight, because if people are speaking about an issue and you have an anecdote, the anecdote is not scientific, so you can't read too much into it, but still I have to share this. An older member of my family, family's life was saved. um I don't want to get into too many details because I want to remain anonymous if possible. There was a health emergency. We called 911. An ambulance came, and my family member got excellent care. And it was a real health emergency, meaning that person would have died if the situation was not treated with urgency. So I have to say that. And I don't say that to try to pretend as if there's no problems. I did already tell you there are problems, but I just think it's important that we don't overstate what those problems are.
Back to us. Third reason is a crisis in Canadian politics. All the politicians whom I know here, from the mayor of my city to the prime minister, are not working to make this country a better place. Their only motivation is to keep staying in power, whether to satisfy their narcissism or to make more money. Canadian Parliament looks to me like a circus. I have not seen them taking a single decision that contributed to my life in a positive way. Just a bunch of very expensive, useless suits pretending they are working for the country, but they just work for themselves. Our prime minister is completely out of touch. He lives in some parallel universe where the budget balances itself and houses are being built by themselves. He and his cabinet are showing off by saying how many more billions of taxpayers' money they wasted on various policies that have brought no real value to Canadians, but just contributed to care about the country and its people at all. Fourth reason not to move to Canada: heads in the sand mentality of Canadians. Even those who do realize that the country has been going downhill and is in a serious crisis would rather be silent about that or leave the country than make steps in order to improve it. The majority of the population is busy surviving and not participating in politics, assuming that the government knows their business, and some of potentially the brightest Canadians, like young professionals, especially doctors, entrepreneurs, are leaving Canada in significant numbers, clearly weakening its potential, kind of a brain drain. They do not see their future in Canada. Canadian culture of being nice plays a role here as well, because it does not help to openly state and address those problems, and it also prevents from providing honest information about the state of the country to potential new immigrants. If you are in Canada and say something negative about it, it almost feels non-Canadian, because you are supposed to be nice and positive. You are taxed to death, you are forced to become homeless, you die in the waiting room of a hospital. That's okay, just be nice, but don't say anything negative about the country or its government. If you look close enough, you will find that almost all the blogs that are ridiculously calling Canada one of the best places to live in the world were created by real estate agents, immigration lawyers, and others who have a business incentive for people to move to Canada. That information is just misleading. Those people failed to find a job that
I really hate when people say fake democracy because voters don't agree with them. I agree this government has made a lot of bad policy decisions and should be voted out. It's that simple. This video was from early 2023, so a lot has happened since then. The Conservatives are leading in the polls, and personally, I hope they win. I don't want to get too political here, but I am reacting to a video here where the person does get kind of political, and I have no problem stating my political beliefs. I support the Conservatives now. This does not mean I will support them in the future. I am not an ideologue politically. That's one thing. about me. Anybody who expects politicians to save them, though, will always be disappointed. You as a man are responsible for making the lives of your family better. Do not depend on politicians. Again, he is overestimating what can be done through politics. If I also have to disagree that Canadians have their head in the sand, because recent polls show that Canadians are going to vote out this government. I won't hold this against him too much, because these polls and this sentiment shift happened more recently after he made this video. But the point still remains that Canadians are not as naive as he thinks they are. After listening to him, I am almost scared to tell the truth. The truth is, Canada is one of the best places in the world to live for the average person. This does not mean it will be good for all immigrants, because immigrants have certain disadvantages. But facts are facts. Look at GDP per capita in Canada compared to the rest of the world. Still one of the best in the world, even though it has been going down in recent years. Look at crime statistics. Still better than most in the world, even though it's been going in the wrong direction in recent years. You cannot compare Canada now to Canada in the past and come to the simplistic conclusion that Canada is a terrible place to live. You need to compare Canada now to the rest of the world in 2024. You will find that most of the rest of the world is worse. I would like to know how politicians behave where he comes from, because people complain about countries that they live in and they seem to forget that it could be worse, and it is worse in many countries.
You won't be able to own a place to live here unless you already have hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have an above the average salary, my wife is also working, we have maybe a year worth of savings, but we cannot afford buying anything. We're so fed up with all this bullshit that is happening in the housing market that we've stopped even thinking about buying a property in Canada. It's just plain ridiculous, completely artificial, and I don't want to participate in this Ponzi scheme in any way, even if it continues to go up to the moon indefinitely. The general sentiment on housing prices in Canada currently is that they will always go up because the government will keep bringing huge numbers of new immigrants, keep restricting the construction of new homes through meaningless bureaucracy and taxing everything to death, including developers and potential home buyers, and keep devaluing Canadian dollar by printing more of it. But how can you have $1 million homes going up in price forever in the economy with the average salary of $50,000? The only industry that is really working in Canada is immigration. 500,000 new immigrants per year are going to flood the country in the next few years, according to another wide.
So yes, I have to agree with him on this one. It is true that houses in Canada are just way too expensive. Way too expensive for most immigrants. And yeah, most people will struggle to own a home in Canada. Not impossible, because for me, I think it is possible if it's something that I prioritized. But really, really difficult, and unnecessarily so. I was shocked when I heard the Prime Minister say that houses need to maintain their value in the midst of a housing affordability crisis. I don't believe the government should be trying to artificially prop up the housing market. Bad real estate speculation should be allowed to fail. Housing should be a place to live. However, many people see their houses as an investment, and the government is pandering to the lack of financial knowledge and will continue to encourage bad speculation. My understanding is that this is a very sensitive political issue, so I don't expect this to change, even with a change of government. In summary, Canada has problems. Canada has a good immigration system that allows the government to pick and choose who to let in and how many they let in based on the needs of the country. This government, however, has not done a good job of using the system effectively. Many things have gone in the wrong direction in recent years. And look, Canada is a country that will require you to work long and be patient and be smart if you want to get ahead. If you expect to work 40 hours per week, buy the latest Mercedes Benz and Audi, eat out 7 days per week, and own a house in the suburbs, that is probably an unrealistic expectation. Also, if you have a decent job in your country with prospects plus the possibility to save, invest, moving to Canada may not significantly improve your life. Many people will find moving to Canada profitable though. Just look at your situation and make your decision. Personally, I love this country, even though Jamaica will always be my home. There are challenges, but problems are everywhere, in every country. I want to repeat a quote that I love. You can have anything that you want in life. You just can't have everything you want.